20 to 250. That's how much we scaled up the profits. We just go and like one chop, like split the wood in two. Start smoking out the bees, and you're taking the honey so that you can harvest the honey, and like they're just pissed. I am Jay Storm. Welcome to the Profit Scaling Podcast. Here we talk about three things. We talk about vision, we talk about velocity, and we talk about vitality.
Telling us a bit about your journey. What inspired you to start Velocity? And how did your upbringing in Colorado influence your entrepreneurial spirit?
What it's like in Colorado. So I was raised in a household where my dad was from the military. He was Ranger, so he was hardcore. And one thing that he taught me was a lot of discipline. And discipline from a very early age. So that's why I remember just being, I don't even know, so young. I was probably like 6, 7 years old and just outside, just chopping firewood. You were like literally living on top of a mountain in Colorado. There's nobody around, like 4 miles, like nobody. And that was our closest neighbor, was 4 miles away. And that's what I just remember, just that atmosphere of being like actually having to warm ourselves with the firewood that like we chopped. And we had a fairly like I'd say large-ish house, and it was 2 stories, and our the main level was on story 2. So what I'd have to do is, me and I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger, and we'd be chopping. So first off, we have to go down to like a tree grove, chainsaw the trees. My dad would do this, and we would literally, he'd chainsaw them up, like cut up all the logs, and then we'd load them into a truck. So that'd be the first thing, and then we'd come up and drive all the way back to our house, up like, you know, 1.5 miles of like snow. This is in the dead of winter in Colorado, so there's feet of snow on the ground. And I just remember feeling just cold and pretty miserable, and you know, like trying to have fun, but like I'm 7, 8 years old, and it's just hard manual labor of just hauling these logs. So we get up there, and the funnest part is actually the chopping of the log. So you get the axe, and there's a certain way to chop it, because like, you know, I have to use my momentum. Like, I'm not that big of a kid, right? And so I'd line the log up like on there. I'd get my axe, and I would take it, and you hold the axe in both hands where they're wide, and then when you swing over, you swing them together and use that momentum, like almost doing a squat to get as much momentum. And like, I just remember that my dad and I would compete on this, because he could swing, and he's a bigger guy, he's super strong, and like he would just go and like one chop, like split the wood in two. Then here I am over here, like whatcha, and try my very hardest, and I like, it would take me like 5 chops to get one, like all the way through. But I just remember just doing this year after year, and that habit of like consistently working at something to actually like achieve something that like that sustains. I think that culminated to a lot of like the success I've had just in life in general, whether it be in school or at work or in business. Was that discipline that was just instilled into me, of like being able to do hard work, like being able to do something repetitive, being able to do something like again and again and again, for a greater picture of providing warmth for not just me but the entire family for the winter, and just doing it again and again and again.
That's really fascinating, Jay. Tell us more about how that mindset has translated into your business ventures.
Actually, let's go way back. Let's go to like my first job, not working, like not helping out the parents, was actually beekeeping. So with beekeeping, this is like another, like, and mind you, I'm at this point like 14, 15 years old. So, and with beekeeping, it's like, it's hard manual labor. I mean, there's some hard manual labor jobs, but this one gets up there. So basically what we'd have to do is we would load up, they're called supers, but they're basically the boxes that the bees would live in and like make the honey in, and that we basically like put on the hives. Like as the hives grew, as they collected more of the honey and made it, we'd like stack these boxes. So that was good and fine. The thing is these, like, they would be around, like when you're carrying them, just, you know, lightweight, there's like, you know, there's a whole, imagine a huge truck bed, and they're just lined like 5 tall, these are like foot long supers, We just call them boxes, foot-long boxes for the bees. And we would just have them, and we'd have like 100 of them. And then we'd go out for the day. And we would put these on the hives. We'd look at them, like make sure they're healthy, like take care of the bees, and like put them on, make sure they're growing, and making the honey, and that's all good. The thing is at the end of the season when we're preparing them for winter and like getting everything wrapped up, and we're taking them off again, taking the bee boxes off, is the sweatiest, hardest, like hottest part ever. So if you can imagine, I was like kitted out with the full bee suit, like the stuff you see in the movies of like literally just like the all white, like the face mask, the gloves on, like with my little smoker thing, so that I'd put the bees to sleep, so that we wouldn't harm them as much as we possibly could. And we would go into these bee yards in like 100-degree weather. This is in Colorado. It's basically a high altitude desert. So if you can imagine, we're just going, and there's like, let's say there's like three people on a squad that we would send out, or on a team, and we ride in the trucks, and like we'd start, and we would go into the bee yard, and like this is first you have to turn off the electric fence. So it's this enclosure with like 20 beehives, and it's like surrounded by an electric fence so the bears don't like eat the honey. Yeah, funny thing is like that actually happens. So that's why we have the electric fences around there. And so we turn off the electric fences. I have a story about that, of like the like lightning shock of my life. So maybe I'll go into that. But just when we're going in there, just like the blazing hot sun, and then you start smoking out the bees, and you're taking the honey so that you can harvest the honey, and like they're just pissed. So there's like, it's blazing hot. I'm sweating everywhere, like from parts of my body I didn't even know existed. And then, there's two other guys, and we're all doing the same thing. And then you have, you're taking the hives off of we're taking the bee boxes, and they're just filled with honey, like 60-pound things, sweaty. There's honey running everywhere. It's sticky, and I'm just in it, and I'm just sweating. And there's bees trying to like attack you, and trying to get in and let every little crevice, and like trying to sting you. And so I just remembered during this, and like. At first, I was like, oh yeah, it's like no big deal. Like looking back, I'm like, holy crap, that was like some of the most like hardest thing ever. Like that's why I'm just like, okay, I made a promise after doing 2 years of that. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna use my mind to make money instead of this like hard manual labor. But again, that discipline that I learned early on of just like chopping the logs, it carried over into being able to do something that's like super difficult. Just learning to be on a team, learning to like figure out ways to like lift these things throughout the day so that I'm not like, just not injured by the end of it, and then doing that day after day after day. So again, it like reinforced that like ability to be able to do something very difficult again and again under circumstances that are very difficult and challenging, whether it's hot, miserable, like feeling like oh my gosh, like I have 6 more hours of this, and then I have like days and days of this to go, but just eliminating all of that and like getting the job done, because it needed to be done, and because that was what God had placed me in, the position that he had placed me in then, to learn the lessons that I needed, so that when I was placed in positions where I needed to use those skills of hard work under challenging circumstances, I could then do it because I'd already experienced the physical and mental. Now I just have to face the mental.
Talking about vision. What was the vision behind starting Velocity, and how do you see it evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Fantastic question. So with Velocity, the main purpose of Velocity is the main mission that I live my life by is bringing vision into reality, and doing that in the fastest way possible. This is what vision means to me, is like, okay, you have the vision, but then executing on it. I work with a lot of visionary entrepreneurs, visionary founders, visionary leaders, and oftentimes they have such a big vision, they can see it in their mind, but then articulating that vision of like, okay, what exactly do you want to create in the world or build for the world? And then the question then becomes, how do you execute that? And that's what I've become exceptional
at. That's powerful, Jay.
Hey, Elsa, I'm not done.
Reality.
Let me talk. And so the purpose behind Velocity is actually helping on the execution part and the strategy part, because it's not just a vision that you need, it's a strategic vision. And this is why there's 3 parts into both our values and the methodology that we follow. Is with a profit system or a system in general, there's a strategic way to go about it. And with execution, it's like you can have a vision, but if you don't have execution, it doesn't matter. You can vision all over the place and nothing happens. So that's what our main focus on is like, okay, take that vision, making it a strategic vision with like actionable steps, and then enrolling the team into actually doing it, creating the systems, the velocity systems that allow you to iterate on. It's like, okay, what's going to be the most profitable investment of like our time, our actions, like the things that we're doing, the strategy, and then doing those again and again and again at velocity. That's why we believe in velocity. Now, the other key part is the vitality of it. So this part is the long term. So some things like you can do at velocity and then you just burn out and like it goes nowhere. Like we've seen this with a lot of companies that are venture backed, is they'll put on the gas, they're like go, and then they just burn out. They're not focused on profitable activities or velocity at profit. And then there's the vitality of just like they burn out, they plummet into the ground, they go into the mountainside, and they weren't focused on profitable activities. They were just focused on the velocity of like going like just building to build, and there was no purpose towards it. So that's like the actual meaning behind velocity is moving forward towards a purpose. And I think that's the most important thing is whenever you have a vision, even if it's just a simple vision of like, I want to have this house and provide for my family. Like that's simple and it's elegant and it's beautiful because then you have a vision, you know what you're working towards, and now you can go into the velocity of like, okay, how do I make that strategic? And then the velocity is like, okay, how can I rapidly iterate on that strategy to take the most profitable actions and do that in a way where like I'm not burning myself out, where it's vital, where its vitality is like, it not only nourishes like myself, my family, and like the world, but I can actually sustainably do this for the long term because I have a greater vision. I'm looking towards the future. I'm not looking at this like one moment in time. So that's really, and then circling all the way back to velocity, that's what we're really doing for companies is making sure that these visionary founders and that the people we partner with are doing like are scaling up their profits quickly and reducing, like what we say is like, yeah, we increase the profits and reduce your cost to acquire clients. Like when you're able to do those 2 things, you will grow and you will scale. And then the methodology of like our 3 steps, doing them capturing the vision, making it strategic, the velocity, and then the like doing it vitality, so the actually strategy behind that. We just wanted to make it so it's like so simple that even if you have like 3 people on your team, even if you just have 1 person on your team, you can apply the same principles that have helped grown the like Fortune 500 companies all the way down to single founders using the same approach. And you might have heard of like Traction, Scaling Up, the EOS system, like the E-Myth, like all these great books. And it's just a way to run the company. But we add in the profitable approach where it's not just executing like this operating system of how to run the company, but doing it with a focus on like what are the most profitable activities, not just in terms of money, but in terms of your life, and like a holistic approach of like it's not just like the fastest way, it's the fastest way, the velocity way towards a purpose with a greater end in mind. There you have it. That's why we created the company, is so that more people would be able to have access to it and be able to bring their visions into reality. Let's go into scaling profit, because that's it tends to be the easiest approach. And it's like as soon as we go into companies, my background is a CFO, running a company for 5 years of a team of 30, multi-million-dollar company in real estate. And yeah, the first thing that I went in, so when I went into the company originally, it was to look at and just grow the company. It was literally just scale the company's profits. And so I looked at the balance sheet. They were bringing in like 350 in revenue, and then I'd look at the balance sheet, and there's like 20K of profit. It's just horrible. Like it's just not a good take home. There's like no margins. Like how are you going to reinvest into the business? The purpose of profits is to be able to either reinvest in the business or invest into yourself and the life that you're designing and in your vision. So what I did was I would just look at it as like, okay, first thing is to identify is like, okay, what are the key drivers of profit in the business? And the second is there any expenses, which is just another way to say investments into the business that are not profitable. They're just like not getting a return. And so that's the very first place that I start is like, okay, like team members, who's generating revenue, like what's generating revenue? Is there any like bloated costs? Is there any like excess that we just need? Is there mismanagement? Is there underperformance? And then we go in and just eliminate that. So eliminate underperforming, eliminate like extra softwares that just aren't even being used, that nobody took a look at, like eliminate agencies that may have been hired and then they're underperforming or they're not being measured, they don't have any KPIs. And that's the first thing. So the second thing is like, okay, now that we've done that, now it's getting clear on like, okay, what are the KPIs? What are the things, what are the measurables? What is the actual ROIs of the investments that we're making into the company? Whether it's on the team, whether it's on softwares, whether it's through agencies, actually looking at what the ROI is of that investment into the company. So instead of looking at things as expenses, investments into the company. Because that's all it really is. It's investments to either manage the company, deliver on the product or service, or just, cost of goods sold. So it's like marketing, generating sales, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to look at each of those things. So once you have the KPIs, the third thing is then getting more data and optimizing. So then it's like optimization. And the optimization comes from looking at it. You have to measure things. You have to have the KPIs. And then once you have them, then we'll go in and start making split tests. So this is where the optimization comes, or the systemization, because literally you can just systemize things and they become way more like efficient. So you can go in and look at like starting on like marketing. It's like, okay, how many leads are coming in? Great. How what's our close rate? It's like, okay, well, what if we just increase the leads coming in? Like we just start there. And it's like, okay, if you bump that by 10% and like that, you automatically have 10% more, like change nothing else, and you've already scaled the company that way. And so those are the three biggest things, and simple things to start with, like even just implementing one of them, even just going in and looking at your profit and loss statement and looking at like, okay, where's the revenue coming from? Where are all my expenses? And like from those expenses, which ones are the most profitable that are actually generating more revenue? And so second, we'll just simplify it. Second thing is looking at and eliminating the things that are not profitable. So whether it be employees, agencies, like extra software, anything like that. And the third thing is setting the KPIs, the measurables, and doing optimization split tests. The basic ones are those. Now with the actual company that I went in on for the 350 and they were just making 20K profit. So it's like after just eliminating expenses, I think like I eliminated, I don't know, like even just, it might have been like 20K of expenses and like 10K of just literally just software that nobody was using. And it was just sitting there, just month over month, just like eating into profits. And so it just went in, eliminated all that. And then that doubled the profit for the next month. And then the next month I was implementing the actual just like, okay, we eliminated the expenses. Now let's like get KPIs and start like holding people accountable. It's like great. Then close rates went up and like lead generation came in and we were qualifying more leads and they were showing up for more calls. And so all that happened. So we went from 350 to 450. And then last one of actually like doing optimization, or I guess that was kind of like KPIs and optimization. And at the end of like 90 days, we were generating, I think it was 550 in revenue and went up to like 250 in profit, 250,000 in profit. Like from 20 to 250. That's how much we scaled up the profits. Like sure, we scaled the revenue, but like that profit is like can then be reinvested right back into the company, distributed to the shareholders, distributed to yourself if you're the founder, and just invest into like more profitable or long-term growth oriented or moonshot ideas so that you can generate so much more. So that is that's the way to do it, and that's what we do. We just come in and we do that, and it's a very simple approach and a very effective approach because simple scales and fancy fails.
You've mentioned that discipline and hard work were crucial in your upbringing. How do you continue to apply those principles in your daily life and business practices today? What does a typical day look like for you, balancing work, personal growth, and any other passions you have?
Waking up at like 7 o'clock and then going to the gym, working out, coming back, and then starting business. And the first thing I look at with vision, and this this is what I encourage. And the first thing that we implement is having a 15-minute daily huddle with your team and having every team do this. So depending on how big the company is, if you're a smaller company, you can literally just be like everybody on the company. If you're below 10, or if you're at 10, even up to 15, it's fine. If you're a little bigger, then you want each individual team to have the daily huddle, 15-minute daily huddle. And this could be like sales team daily huddle, marketing team, like product, like executive team, leadership team. And once on those, it's just going through and looking at like, okay, what were the numbers from yesterday? Like, what are our goals? And like, what are the challenges? Okay, what are the commitments we're gonna make, and like, what's the number one priority of the day? So the number one thing that's gonna move the needle the most. And once everybody's clear on that, like literally everybody in the company sets this, then you go into the day, and that's when I start the work and like knock out the number one priority first. And once that's knocked out, it could look like building a relationship, or like hopping on a call, like building building systems to deliver for a company, or like thinking through or meeting. So like it could be meeting with like an executive team of a company and going into strategy of implementing our profit system. So yeah, I mean that's a typical day. And then same thing, basically eat, and then work at nights, and basically at nighttime I'll either go to an event, or I love to actually watch YouTube videos. So like sometimes I'll watch just YouTube videos. I'm actually really into old school RuneScape, funny enough. And I'll watch those because I was brought up on these like playing RuneScape and playing this old school game. And so shout out to all my OGs who actually know what RuneScape is. And or I'll watch I'll watch podcast episodes. So I really enjoy watching anything with Elon in it. That's what recently has been like. Mr. Beast is another one that I watch a lot of. And I'll tend to like watch some of those, maybe film some, or like knock out some more work, or like work on ideas or just interesting ideas. And
That's a well-rounded day, Jay.
Oh.
It's great to hear how you structure your time and maintain balance.
Whoa! Thanks, Elsa. Thanks for interrupting me. So that would be an average day. On my hardcore days, it would be waking up at 5 o'clock. It's really cool. My church does a 5 a.m. prayer call. It's not even with my church. It was my buddy started it because he wakes up at 5 a.m. and it was to keep my other friend accountable. And basically we wake up, do a 5 a.m. like prayer, and there's like 3 people who pray, and then we'll like jump to the day. So that's when I'll like work out earlier at 6 o'clock, and then same thing, just before the 15-minute huddle. Then I'll knock out like 3 hours of work before that starts, and then pretty much the day goes the same. And the other things that I do is I'll go and like hang out at my pool and get some sun, and that's really the extent of my life, because I love business. And similarly, I really believe in the mission of turning people's vision for their companies, vision for their lives into reality. And that's that's what we're building towards, is a world where anybody, no matter where you're starting, no matter what your background, no matter where you are in the world, you're actually able to take that vision, take that goal, take that like God-given thing that he's put on your heart, and actually make that into a reality, and do that at velocity. So it's like moving with speed, with purpose towards that vision. That's where we're gonna wrap it. So welcome. This is the pilot episode. And we're going to be have some amazing guests, entrepreneurs, founders, visionaries. And if you want to be on the podcast, just get in touch with me, DM me, email, anything like that. And I would be happy to have you.